Please be seated. The court is now in session. For today's proceeding, we will continue to hear the testimony of witness Ong Ran. And after, we will commence hearing the testimony of TCW 100. Mrs. Sakalwati, could you report the attendance of the parties and individuals to today's proceeding? Sakalwati, Mr. President, all parties to today's proceeding are present except the Counsel Kong Som-on, National Counsel for Kir Sampon, and Ms. Elizabeth Simino-Ford, the international lead co-lawyer for civil parties, who are absent for personal reasons. As the accused Ieng Sari and Nguyen Chia, they are present in the holding cells downstairs due to health reasons. And the witness, Mr. Ong Ran, is already in the courtroom. The next witness, there is TCW 100, is waiting in the waiting room to be called by the chamber. To the witness knowledge and ability, the witness does not have any relationship by blood or by law to any of the three accused, namely Nguyen Chia, Ieng Sari, and Kir Sampon, nor to any of the civil parties recognized in this case. The witness already took an oath this morning. This witness will have a duty counsel, Mr. Lam Bun Heng. President, thank you, Mrs. Sakalwati. This morning, the chamber receives a medical report from the physician at the ECCC detention facility who examines Nguyen Chia's health prior to the hearing today and observes that Nguyen Chia has problems with his health, and he recommends that Nguyen Chia cannot participate directly in the courtroom. However, he can follow the proceeding from the holding cell downstairs. In order to avoid substantial delay, and as the justice so requires, and based on the medical report of the physician, the chamber orders Mr. Nguyen Chia to follow the proceeding remotely from the holding cell downstairs. That applies for today's proceeding. AV unit you instructed to link the proceeding to the holding cell downstairs so that the accused can follow it. I would now like to give the floor to the International Defense Counsel for Kir Sampon to continue putting further questions to this witness. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, we interrupted your examination yesterday while I was trying to find out from you whether on the day you went to the Olympic Stadium to attend the ceremony regarding the establishment of Division 801, you were still in the hospital or you had already left the hospital. to join your men in Phnom Penh? That is a question I would put to you again this morning, with a view to trying to situating in time when that ceremony started. Were you still in the hospital, or you left the hospital to attend that ceremony, or you had already joined your men based in Phnom Penh?
I already left the hospital at that time, so I went with my deputy to the west of the stadium.
Et d'après vous, si vous vous en souvenez, vous n'êtes...
And to the best of your recollection, and I don't want you to give me any specific details since these events occurred a long time ago, did any time elapse between the time you left the hospital and the ceremony at the Olympic Stadium? Can you give us an idea of the duration of that period, that time lapse?
I cannot recall the exact number of days. However, after I left the hospital and to stay to the west of the Olympic Stadium, it was quite a while.
Alors, cette...
Very well. Who attended that ceremony? What caliber of persons were present at that assembly? Were they civilians, politicians, soldiers, a mixture of all these people? Can you describe to us who exactly attended that assembly?
As I stated earlier, there were only division forces, including all the subordinate companies and regiments.
Alors, lorsque vous avez été...
Now, when you were interviewed by the co-investigating judges, as well as before this chamber, you gave the names of the political leaders who attended that ceremony. You did not mention Mr. Kyo Sampan. Similarly, if we look at the audio recording of your interview, the interview you granted to Tribunal investigators on the 23rd of October 2009, I requested a translation, and the reference is D232-34-34, and you specify that Mr. Kyo Sampan did not attend that ceremony. Do you confirm today that he was not indeed present at that assembly?
Yes, I stand by my statement. I can recall that at that time, Pol Pot, Ieng Sari, Nuon Chea, and Son Sen were the leaders whom I knew by then. There were other senior cadres, but I did not recognize or know them. I only talked about the people that I knew. And as for Mr. Kyo Sampan, I myself never knew him. Even when I arrived in Phnom Penh, I still did not know him.
Et les gens qui ont fait...
Regarding those who delivered messages at that assembly, did they introduce themselves? Were their names given?
Yes, the presenter actually announced the names of those dignitaries, and I recall the 3 or 4 names that I mentioned earlier.
Quel était exactement l'objet de ce rassemblement?
What was the specific purpose of that assembly? Why was this assembly convened? What was said at the assembly and what was done at that assembly?
The main content was for the creation of the integration of Division 11 and for the assignment of the new division to Ratanakiri province.
Et justement,
And to be very specific, how long after the ceremony did you leave? Was it long after the ceremony or shortly after the ceremony that you left? Can you give us an idea of the time that elapsed between that ceremony and when you left, when you were appointed?
After the announcement of the new division in each respective unit, we had the duty to organize within ourselves. So all the battalions and regiments had to go to the designated areas as assigned. But at that time, the soldiers were still in Phnom Penh, but we went to the assigned locations first to prepare the ground for the soldiers to arrive at a later stage.
et vous, vous êtes parti combien de temps après la cérémonie?
And how long was that after the assembly?
As I recall, I left 15 days later.
Et les soldats?
How about the soldiers?
Yes, they did. In fact, at that time, only the platoons, the companies, and the battalion went along with me to prepare the ground for the soldiers. And later on, when the soldiers arrived, they would know exactly the locations where they had to base themselves.
Donc vous, vous êtes parti 15 jours après la cérémonie.
So you left 15 days after the ceremony. And when did the soldiers leave? That is, how many days, weeks after the assembly?
As I recall, at that time the water current in the river was still high, and I believe they went in around October.
Il fallait combien de temps à l'époque
How long did it take troops to travel from Phnom Penh to wherever they had been transferred to? How many hours or how many days did it take?
They had to mainly traveled by bicycles or other means. They reached an area in Kratie province in around late November. They rested there for 3 or 4 days to gain some further strength, and then they continued to Stung Train, and they reached Stung Train probably on the 15th of December. And there had been some sick soldiers who would be left at the mobile hospital there, while the rest tries to reach the designated locations. And once they arrive there, some will prepare the shelter for the soldiers, while other forces look for the area where they could do rice farming to support all the soldiers.
Donc si je vous comprends bien et vous...
So, if I understand you correctly, and tell me if I am wrong, it took them quite a long time, since you give dates which give us that impression that it was a very long time.
Yes, that is correct.
Pour revenir à la cérémonie dont vous avez parlé,
Coming back to the ceremony you referred to a while ago, to your knowledge, were several ceremonies organized at the Olympic Stadium to rally together soldiers concerned with the establishment of Division 801. Were several such ceremonies customarily organized?
Before I respond to this question, I'd like to clarify that after the creation of Division 801, then representatives from divisions were called for study sessions. There was that ceremony of this size once at the Olympic Stadium, and I attended the ceremony twice or three times at the Olympic Stadium and another study session in Phnom Penh.
donc en tout, vous avez participé à plusieurs...
So, in all, you attended several ceremonies at the Olympic Stadium. Is that your testimony?
I attended the ceremonies held at the Olympic Stadium on two occasions. The first was the organization of Division 801, and the second, that was the study sessions called for all the representatives of all the units throughout the country. There were representatives from districts, from zones, and from regiments as well. I attended another ceremony as well, but I could not call what the ceremony was for, and it was held at the Olympic Stadium as well.
D'accord.
Very well. How about the two other assemblies? Did they also have to do with the establishment of Division 801, or they were organized for other purposes?
The study session was about the victory of 17 April, about the meaning of that victory, and then the future directions that we needed to follow. As for the duties of the army, were first to defend the country, in particular along the borders with the neighboring countries and at the designated spearhead. We needed to grasp the situation well, the territory well, and number two, to be vigilant in solving the livelihood problem in each respective division. These were the two core duties for the army. And I also like to add that I received instructions through the first study session on these topics. And then when I returned to Simpang, I tried to implement these instructions to engage in rice farming in order to support my unit.
Mr. Witness, what you are saying is very interesting, but it only answers my question partially. What I want you to say by way of an answer has to do with the 3 assemblies organized at the Olympic Stadium, which you attended. Were all the 3 assemblies related to the establishment of Division 801, or it was only the first one? So were these meetings organized with a view to assisting with the establishment of Division 801, yes or no?
I understand your question, but in my response, I did not talk about the creation of division. I talked about the 3 main topics. I talk about the second time that I attended the meeting, and I told you what we were given in the instructions, and that is number 1, to recall the anniversary of the victory of the 17th April.
J'ai compris, vous les avez.
Please, witness, you don't need to repeat that. I understand that you said it, and it is noted on the record. What I am trying to ascertain is whether all the meetings were organized for the same purpose, and you have told me that is not so, and you've stated that 2 other meetings were organized at the Olympic Stadium in 1975, and others were held at other times. So I wanted you to specify whether the other meetings were held at other times.
They were held in 1975, not at any other time.
Les 3 réunions?
All the 3 meetings?
Yes.
D'accord.
Very well.
Et nous sommes d'accord que les...
Do you agree with me that the other 2 meetings, the other two assemblies you referred to, had nothing to do with the establishment of Division 801, right?
Yes, they did not relate to any of the division creation.
Pour compléter cette réponse,
to complement your answer, and it's a follow-up to the question I asked a while ago, and you said something else. To your knowledge, as far as the assembly relating to the establishment of Division 801, was that the only assembly organized for that purpose? Did you hear of any other assemblies organized with a view to assisting in the establishment of Division 801, or that is the only assembly that you heard about?
I can recall that that was the only occasion where the announcement of the creation of their division was made.
Now I'd like to change topics, and I'd like to ask you, what was your military training? I know that you led a rather substantial number of troops. So I'd like to know, what was your military training? Did you go to military school, or did you study military strategy? And if that is the case, can you tell us which one?
Response. From the day I joined the army, I never attended any military trainings or school. I joined the army and learned on the job. Whenever I learned from running from the bullets, when, for example, the gunshot was heard, then we would then take refuge in the bunkers or trenches, or hide behind some tree or stumps. And this is what I learned to become a soldier during the Democratic Cambodia. We never attended any formal military trainings.
And among the cadre, the military cadre of your level, or those with whom you were working, did any of them follow any kind of military training? Had any of them gone to military school? Or were these people who basically learned on the job, like you?
Response. At that time, there was no school for military training. If it were, soldiers could have been invited to attend such sessions, but it was none. And I don't remember having heard or attended any of the training, so I can say no. And the commander of my division even told me that, or told us that, we did not need to be trained, because by learning on the jobs, engaging in the fightings, or going all the way to the border area, we would learn already from how to become a soldier.
Yesterday, you were questioned about the ties you had with the higher echelons when you were posted near the border. And you spoke about the two ways you could communicate with the higher echelons. You said that when you had batteries, you could send telegrams. But otherwise, it was necessary to walk for 5 days. Do you remember saying that?
Response. Yes, I do. If the telegram was not operational, then we had to walk 5 days.
And was it easy to find power back then, or batteries, in order to send telegrams? What was the most common situation? Was it being able to use the telegraph, or was it having to walk for 5 days in order to meet the people face to face?
Response. I already stated about this. there was no such power, or the battery was not easy to obtain, and we used a small device that consumed the battery, and the battery would run out very easily or quickly after 1 or 2 days, and after this we had to resort to walking all the way to see one another.
Is it fair to say that you were very often on your own and forced to make your decisions on your own in that situation?
Response: I don't think it is fair to say that. However, I could also make some own decisions in my unit if those decisions were needed.
Votre unité.
And back then, your unit was a unit that was stationed close to the Vietnamese border, as you said. This was a very strategic position. Can you tell us if you felt you were among the best equipped units? Because, of course, you were in a key position. Was your equipment more substantial or less substantial than the equipment of the other units? So can you tell us a bit about your equipment back then? Was your equipment better or not as good as the equipment from other units in your eyes?
Response: within my unit posted near the border area, the equipment, the ammunition, or to put it simply, we could resist the attacks by the enemy, and the supplies could last for 3 days without any problem. So after 3 days, we would have to ask for backup.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you for this answer. And this will now be my last question, so I can get some clarification about this answer. So this situation of autonomy, this 3-day situation of autonomy, was it something that was normal for the units placed along the border, or was this a situation that was particular? I see that the prosecutor is on his feet. So
The President, witness, please hold on. International Co-Prosecutor, you may now proceed.
Mr. President, I would just object to the form of the question to characterize this as a situation of autonomy. The witness simply said he had supplies for 3 days. I don't think it's proper for counsel to put words in the mouth of the witness and characterize that as meaning they were autonomous.
Monsieur le Président, si je peux répondre.
Mr. President, I simply was referring to the situation of autonomy that the witness was describing. I didn't add anything to that. It was 3 days of being able to function on their own, if you prefer. That's what I meant.
Est-ce que vous voulez que je reformule?
Would you like me to reformulate my question, maybe?
Ce qui m'intéresse.
What I'm trying to know, witness, is not how long you were able to function on your own. If you were attacked by the enemy, it was especially to know if you were able, or if you are able, to compare the situation in your unit from the standpoint of equipment in terms of its quality and quantity with equipment in other units? Would you say that you were as well equipped in your unit as in the other units, or less well equipped, or are you not able to make such a comparison?
Response. As far as the materials and equipments are concerned, our division was equipped or similarly equipped as that of other division. But the convenience for other division was different from us. We had faced some difficulties because we did not really have road access close to the position where we posted. Other divisions could be more convenient because they could go to the roads more easily.
This was my last question. Thank you very much, witness. I have no further questions.
The President, thank you. Mr. Ong Ran, your testimony has now come to a conclusion, and you are now excused. You may return to your home or wherever you wish to go. The court is very grateful indeed to your attendance. We appreciate your patience and your efforts to give the testimony during the last 2 days. Mr. Ong Ran, your testimony helps ascertain the truth. The Chamber wishes you all the very best and safe travels. Court officer is now instructed to assist Mr. Ong Ran with the Wetsu unit to make sure that Mr. Ong Ran is returned home or wherever he wishes to go safe and sound. The President. Next, the Chamber would like to proceed to bring about an issue for discussion. Yesterday, the Chamber already informed the parties to the proceedings, and there is another email sent to the parties concerning the application by lead co-lawyers for the civil party, in which the councils requested that the civil party TCCP 94 be summoned to give testimony before the Chamber. the chamber already informed the content of the matter to the parties, to the proceedings already. Now, we are still considering on how or whether this civil party should be summoned to give testimony or not. We would like now to give the opportunity to parties to comment on this. We first proceed with the lead co-lawyers for the civil party, who are the original requesters of this application. We would like to give the opportunity to parties for 5 minutes to do this, and please be brief. Council Pick On, thank you, Mr. President. We would like to share this floor with Council Samsakung and Council Benier to address this. Council Samsakung, thank you, Mr. President, and your honors and parties to the proceedings regarding civil party TCCP 94. And due to the fact that the lead co-lawyers have not made a specific request to hear the testimony of this civil party on the evacuations, the first and second phase, but the lead co-lawyers for the civil party would like the civil party to give testimony concerning the roles of the accused and the situation at Bang Trabak and the policy of the Khmer Rouge regarding the returnees from abroad. Nonetheless, we see that the fact relevant to the testimony of this civil party is relevant to the fact that the whole family of the civil party has suffered from the evacuation, and in case file 002/01 there is part in which the roles of the accused are discussed, and this civil party knows clearly about the roles of the two accused, Mr. Ieng Sari and Khieu Samphan. The civil party attended the session chaired by these individuals when the returnees from abroad also were the attendees. This civil party also knows the policy of the Khmer Rouge concerning the evacuation and how returnees were treated. So, as the Council for the Civil Parties, we would respectfully submit that this civil party is summoned to give testimony concerning the facts relevant to the roles of the two accused. And I thank you very much indeed, Your Honours. I would like to cede the floor over to my colleague, Benier.
Thank you. Good morning, Your Honours. Good morning to everyone in and around the courtroom. I'm speaking here on behalf of Nushin Sakarati, who is the civil party lawyer of TCCP 94, but who cannot be here today. I just want to address briefly the 3 points mentioned in the email circulated yesterday by the trial chamber to all the parties. First, on number 2 of the email, where the issue is raised that
the President, Council Benier, could you please slow down a little bit?
Yes, I will, Mr. President. So first I want to address the issue of the VOA interview that is not on the case file but is publicly accessible. I want to reiterate that there is no duty to disclose prior publicly available statements as evidence by the civil party lawyers. This obligation only is applicable to the co-prosecutors according to the internal rules. In addition to that, there is no prejudice to any of the other parties by not having the VOA interview put on the case file, because the existence of this interview has been known all along since it was cited and referenced in the Victims' Information Form of TCCP 94. Secondly, within this week, there will be a publicly accessible version in 2 court languages, in English and Khmer, available on the website of VOA. Thirdly, the civil party lawyers do not intend to use or cite any parts of these VOA interview transcripts during the examination. And lastly, the civil party lawyers have no objection against the use of these transcripts in Khmer or in English during the examination by other parties. Now I would like to come to number 3 in your email, which deals with the issue that the accused might be implicated in the statement of suffering. I just want to clarify that this concern is based on a wrong assumption on the part of the trial chamber. The civil party, TCCP 94, will not testify on the roles of the accused during her statement of suffering, but during the fact-based segment of her testimony. This will give the opportunity to all parties, including the defense, to pose questions to her following the examination by the civil party lawyers. Therefore, issues that were raised in regard to TCCP 187, who testified previously before the chambers, will not occur. Now, lastly, on the point 4 in the email, which deals with the problem of the necessity of expending the time for the testimonies. Now, according to our knowledge, half day is allocated to the OCP and CPLs, and half day is allocated to defense. As this decision was made, it was already proposed by the civil party lawyers that TCCP 94 will testify on the roles of the accused, so that we do not see that there will be any issues with additional time requirements. Thank you very much.
The President. Thank you, counsels. We would like now to hand over to the prosecution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be brief. Based on the description of the Voice of America interview that is contained in the letter from the civil party lead co-lawyers that was distributed, it does appear to us that while this civil party may not be able to provide information to the court about the evacuation of Phnom Penh, that the civil party has very useful information on 2 of the accused and their roles in the regime. And specifically, in relation to Mr. Khu Sampan, the civil party is able to testify to political education that he provided, and in particular of interest, political discussion and education of a policy of forced movement of the Vietnamese. It seems to us that that is a fairly significant matter in order to establish Khu Sampan's knowledge of and involvement in regime policies related to forced movement. And it is also indicated that the civil party can testify to the role of Ieng Sary in relation to Boeing Trebek. In particular, this will help in establishing the authority of Ieng Sary relating to diplomats and returnees. And in addition, it appears that the civil party was present at some meetings at which Ieng Sary spoke, and through which it would be established of his knowledge and participation in matters related to persecution or purges. So because of this, it appears that this is a civil party who would be useful. I agree with the civil party councils that she should be called. And I would not expand the time for this witness. These are fairly discrete matters and events that should be able to be covered fairly quickly. If this civil party is willing to travel from her location to come here and tell us about these events, I think it would be good for the court to hear that and to find a time to do so. So that is the position of that we have on this issue, based on the new information about the Voice of America interview. And if indeed that is posted and made available to on the website, then that should be plenty of time for the parties to prepare.
The President, thank you, Mr. Co-Prosecutor. We would like now to hand over to defense teams, starting from Counsel for Nguyen Chie first.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to paragraph 1 of the email of yesterday, this witness excuse me, doesn't seem to be highly relevant to our case presently. We concur with we shall